Hello and welcome to Northwest Indian News. I'm Carissa Peapud Ramsey, a Tulalip tribal member. Washington schools strive to provide a fair and equal education for all students, regardless of cultural background. To ensure a positive learning environment for every student, the Washington State Board of Education is encouraging schools to take a second look at their sports mascots. Sherry Macy brings us the story.
In September of 2012, the Washington State Board of Education passed the Native American Mascot Resolution, urging schools to end the use of Native Americans as mascots. The resolution leaves it up to individual school districts to review and reevaluate mascots that may have a negative effect on student learning. We spoke with Dr. Stephanie Freiberg, a professor at the University of Arizona and a key researcher in the studies behind the resolution, to learn more about this complex issue.
We get narrowly represented through these romanticized images. So part of what's going on is that it's allowing other people to play with our identity. And so people, put on headdresses and put on war paint and, do the chop. And yet, really what it means to be Native, it's an identity. It's who you are as a people.
My tribe wears headdresses. I'm Klamath, and if you earn it, then you have the right to wear a headdress. It's at certain ceremonies, events that they bring that. And stuff like basketball games, wearing a headdress, that's really nothing sacred at all.
We know that it has a negative effect on Native students. It makes them not feel as good about themselves. It doesn't make them feel as efficacious or confident that their community can actually improve itself. And it also affects how far they feel they can go in education. And interestingly, it's not tied to how strong your ethnic identity is. We've tried using that measure in a couple of the studies, and it just never comes up significant. So this is not about whether you have a strong identity as a Native person or not. In fact, the research shows that Native students who disagree with the use of Indians as mascots are buffered from the effect. So it's the students who agree with the use of Indians as mascots who pay a larger price.
At my high school, where we had an Indians mascot, I just felt like it was very demeaning for me. And often, we're rooting, with whatever the cheerleaders are rooting, and there was a cheer called "The Indians are Red Hot," and I was just like, no, this is not okay, and it was uncomfortable, and I felt like it didn't put us at the same level as everyone else.
I often think about the use of Indian mascots sort of in the same line as you think about bullying. So if we ask ourselves, how many kids are we okay with bullying? Is it okay if just one kid is being bullied? Are we okay with that? Or how about two kids being bullied? Well, you could ask the same question. So is it that we need all Native students to say we disagree? Or is it, are we willing to accept if just one or two says it hurts them? So when we think about it, how many kids is it okay to harm? It's really complicated because one of the things we know about what it means to be human is we often assume that how I feel about something must be how you feel about the same thing, right? That we can't imagine that one thing that makes me feel good could make you feel bad. And yet, in fact, that's how stereotypes often work.
For my belief is that everybody's the same and everybody deserves the same treatment. I mean, it's sort of like us going into a new community and, just jumping to conclusions on how those type of people are.
There used to be mascots about whites and African Americans and Hispanics, and those have all been taken away because those groups did feel like it was disrespectful of them. And this is not different. So I suspect that we will continue on this path of eliminating the use of Natives as mascots in schools. It's not beneficial. It shouldn't be in a domain where it is affecting people's life outcomes.
I think it just shows that we really value everyone equally, that we're not putting people at a different level, that we just have that equality, and that we really value all human beings as human beings. I think that's important. We can all have respect for each other.
For Northwest Indian News, this is Sherry Macy reporting.
When we return, we'll meet a young Native athlete who is making a name for himself in professional baseball.
Makes it really easy. I'm not having to follow Who says that all good things must come to an end? That nothing lasts forever? That you can't turn the tide for good? For us, protecting nature comes so naturally. We're the tribes in Western Washington, stewards, and have been for centuries to come.
Hi, my name is Zahn Tokia Kul, clarinet. Graduated from Central High School.
I'm Tim Ramos, a Clear Lake High School graduate.
I'm Chris Eyre, a high school graduate from Klamath Union High School in Oregon.
My name is Shosha Esquire, and I graduated from F.H. Collins.
My name's Cody Blackbird, the 2011 Native American Music Award winning Flutist of the Year. I can definitely say that as an artist, I would not be where I am today if I wasn't a high school graduate.
Make the commitment to stick with your education, go further than high school, college.
Not getting a college degree creates obstacles in your life.
Just keep pushing, pushing, pushing. You will succeed and finish up and get your high school diploma.
I think it's extremely important, something that you will never regret.
There's people in your community, there's people that need you, and without your high school education, you won't be able to get as far in your life as you could have. So stay in school and let's solve this dropout crisis.
Washington Indian tribes are investing in the environment. The Nisqually tribe has undertaken the restoration of the Nisqually River Delta.
The goal of the project is to remove all the dikes, reflood the estuary, and help bring back the salmon runs.
The Delta is a huge piece of our environmental efforts. So we feel this really deep internal desire to keep the river as well as these surrounding prairies in the best shape possible.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. It's a common stereotype that growing up on a reservation handicaps Native youth and limits their potential. Res Life hasn't held back one Navajo youth who is embracing a future in Major League Baseball. NWIN's Raven Speaker brings us the story of this inspirational young athlete.
Jacoby Ellsbury grew up a phenomenal multi-sport athlete and became the first Navajo to reach the major leagues. With every game, he brings enthusiasm, agility, and a giving spirit.
As everybody knows, Jacoby is considered a role model in Indian country. Being a Native American, reaching professional level, playing professional baseball.
Ellsbury is the starting center fielder for the Boston Red Sox. For 2 seasons, he led the American League in stolen bases. He received a Gold Glove award in 2011, and his solid foundation as a professional athlete began at an early age.
It was always fun to watch Jacoby because he always made it look effortless, you know. My job was basically to put the ball on the tee and teach the kids to keep their eye on the ball. Pulled him aside one day and I said, Jacoby, I said, you don't have to hit the ball so far. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, Coach, I don't know if I can do that. So, I mean, he just had it in him at that point. I mean, it was just, you know, it's just a natural God-given gift that he was given to kind of get out there and perform and do it almost effortlessly.
Grew up here, grew up in Oregon. It's always nice to be back here playing Seattle in the Northwest. You know, get a lot of friends and family traveling up here to see the game, so it's nice to be back here playing. When I was young, I always wanted to play in the big leagues, and from a young age, that was my goal, and I think it's important for you know, kids to have a goal, kids to strive for something.
Off the field, Ellsbury serves on the Board of Advisors for the Center for Native American Youth and raises money for the Navajo Relief Fund. No wonder young people look up to him in the same way he admired his heroes when he was young.
He started off really good against the Yankees, a few home runs. I don't know, he's just a great player.
Well, I play center field sometimes when I play ball, and last year when he was wearing number 46, probably my favorite number.
He went to OSU, so I live in Portland, so I follow him. He's my favorite player. He's great. He's doing well.
Yeah, I was always a big baseball fan growing up, and King Griffey Jr. was center fielder, left-handed, played the game hard, and now that I'm in the big leagues, it's unbelievable. It's fun. I enjoy what I do, have a lot of fun doing it, and to be here, I just cherish each and every day and work hard, and just trying to help this team win right now.
There seems to be a fundamental why people excel because of their strong roots and connection to their culture, their spirituality, their tradition, and the support system from your family.
His parents were really supportive. They were both there pretty much throughout his career. In high school, pretty much supportive of whatever he needed to do. I tell him that anything's possible if you work hard, go to school, and I don't deny any kids that say they want to play in the major leagues. I just say, well, you just got to work hard, and there's things that you need to do to sacrifice, in order to get to that level.
It was the pride of our people that he was raised right here, and he learned the game from here, from playing with the kids. They really compete hard.
I try to get everything out of my abilities and work at that, and have fun doing it.
Jacoby once told his first grade teacher he would grow up to be a professional baseball player. Keeping education a priority, he stuck to it and became an inspiration to young people everywhere. For Northwest Indian News, I'm your friendly neighborhood Raven speaker saying Demagik Neetsen.
Next, we'll meet the Githoen dancers of the Tsimshian First Nations people.
We were in the Museum of Natural History in New York. There was a show going on at the time we were performing there. Almost everything in the show we were using. Masks and regalia and drums, headdresses, box drums, everything. And you could almost take everything we had and put it up next to almost everything that they had in that show.
That story and more on this episode of Northwest Indian News.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in health care. The Jamestown S'Klallam tribe is expanding their health care clinic to meet an ever-growing community need.
Quality health care of our people, of our citizens, Indian and non-Indian alike, is essential for our future.
This new 35,000 square foot clinic will provide medical services and be open to the general public. Tribal governments are investing millions of dollars each year across our state to improve health and dental care in our communities.
That's the bottom line for us, is quality health care.
We have our own way of thinking. We think sustainability is nothing new. We think justice is older than any government. We think we can grow radishes on the moon. We think the war against diabetes is fought on the basketball court. We think the same berries we pick today should be here for another 7 generations. We think education is for the mind and the spirit. We think Indian.
Help tribal college students preserve their way of thinking.
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in jobs. Job-creating investments like the $350 million container terminal in Tacoma.
Puyallup Tribe, through Marine View Ventures, is partnering with SSA Marine to develop a 200-acre, 3-berth terminal, which at full build-out will be the largest terminal in the Pacific Northwest.
Tribal governments are investing in Washington's economy, creating jobs in many different industries. Everyone's working together to make it happen.
Founded in 1994, the Githoen dancers combine elaborate masks, regalia, and ceremony to bring to life the history of the Tsimshian First Nations. NWIN's Solana Booth has more.
Githoen emerges in Seattle as a result of master carver David Boxley's pursuit to create functional artwork and restore traditional performing arts.
Githoen was formed with 6 people, and we went out to eastern Canada in the summer of 1996 and performed at the Museum of Civilization. And a number of the songs that we still use were created for that trip. Because in old days there were no dance groups. You know, there were families and societies that had certain dances and performances. And so I've tried to take those things, you know, the secret society dances, the really secretive carvers that made the masks for those dances. And then I remember my grandmother's stories too, you know, using that bit of information to kind of mix those in too. What I do means a great deal to me personally because when I was growing up we had nothing. All we had in my village was subsistence culture and a dying language and the faces of the old folks, the beautiful faces, native faces, you know.
It's really the family spirit, all enjoying what we're doing and all working together and really just having an excellent time learning and experiencing and doing so many different things.
Sometimes our own people are our own worst critics. And he always says, I'm even doing it for those people, you know, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not. Everything I've done has been so we can all be proud and so we can all have our culture again.
It comes first and foremost, I've gone on job interviews and I've let them know that this is the #1 thing to me and it means everything to me. It's my favorite thing to do. Absolutely, it's the first thing that I want to do.
The handmade masks, rattles, and drums used in performances is evidence of our ancestral spirit.
We were in the Museum of Natural History in New York. There was a show going on at the time we were performing there. Almost everything in the show we were using. Masks and regalia and drums, headdresses, you know, box drums, everything. And you could almost take everything we had and put it up next to almost everything that they had in that show. And that was really good because we could tell the large crowds that we had there, you know, before, after our performance, go in and see that this is a living culture.
Githoen has been inspiring audiences globally for the last 20 years.
It's always so fun to watch people's reaction to those 3 goofy ravens going out there and having a lot of fun, sitting on people, getting the crowd reaction, getting them into it. To the point where it is one of the most popular songs that we do. The crowd just loves us and erupts every time we finish. Each time we go out there, it gives us a chance to improvise and come up with something new, and we keep sharing that and we keep building on it.
Women have a real strong part in our performances. They're just as important as the guys in terms of the mask dances, and I try to balance that out. My inspiration is the fact that I was raised by 2 wonderful old people, you know, who were born in the early days of our village. That's my inspiration, is the fact that we had nothing, and I didn't think that was right. You know, our culture isn't just in museums. You know, we're living it now.
Githoen breathes life and spirit into beautiful living traditions with every powerful performance. For Northwest Indian News, I'm Solana Booth.
Visit nwin.tv, where you can view every episode of Northwest Indian News on demand.
The research shows that Native students who disagree with the use of Indians as mascots are buffered from the effect. So it's the students who agree with the use of Indians as mascots who pay a larger price.
You can also watch NWIN and other Native programming at tulaliptv.com. Coming up next, we'll travel to Umatilla, Oregon for the annual Salmon Walk.
One of the big things that Salmon Walk does is it raises funds to be able to do education and outreach within the school systems. When we're doing education and outreach, we're able to talk about the importance of your natural resources and to be able to tell people about the tribe's sovereignty, why we have sovereignty, why we're so aggressively working to restore salmon.
Well, culture is important to the Squamish people because it's an honoring of our ancestral ways and traditions and the ways that have been part of this landscape for thousands of years. So for us, we're honoring our ancestors, and we're also building for our future generations, our youth.
You are welcome to come ashore, and yes,
Our culture is alive.
I couldn't be more proud of the Squamish.
Hey!
Hey!
To my tribe, I'm more than a student. I'm an example that it's possible to get an education.
Education can end poverty, violence, and health issues on the res.
On the reservation, tribal students find ways to turn their education into an entire tribe's education.
Even when only 5% of Indians on the reservation
Only 5% of Indians
can afford to go to college.
If I do nothing, 25,000 people will continue to live in poverty.
I will help 2 million people educate themselves.
I'll keep 173,000 people from losing their sacred home.
Hey!
Washington's Indian tribes are investing in natural resources.
The main goal of the Tulalip Forestry Program is to preserve over half of our reservation in the forestry classification.
The Tulalips manage their tribal forest lands, create jobs, and also work with the U.S. Forest Service in our national forests.
We have a very unique collaborative effort here with the Tulalip tribes to restore the landscape for future generations.
Tribal stewardship of natural resources across Washington is an investment that benefits everyone.
Welcome back to Northwest Indian News. Recently, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation hosted its annual Salmon Walk. The popular event is filled with family activities, including biking, crafts, and informational tours with everything focusing on the importance of salmon preservation. NWIN's Wayne Messer brings us the story.
As the first rays of the morning sun peek over the horizon, the 17th annual Salmon Walk is underway. This family-friendly event engages local communities in activities to increase awareness of natural resources.
But every year we try to bring in somebody new or something different to really kind of play up on that education outreach that's important about the watershed and how that's flowing. We have our water resource program who had a booth this year who was showing how groundwater is affected from pollution or different things and how it reacts to the aquifers.
The movement of water is going up and out.
Our department mission, protect and enhance the tribe's first foods, which is chush, or water, nusuk for salmon, yamish for deer, chaush, which represents our roots, and wiwanu for our huckleberries. And each one of those foods represents a category. The salmon represents all the fish in the aquatics for the fisheries, and the fisheries program manages those. One of the big things that Salmon Walk does is it raises funds to be able to do education and outreach within the school systems. And when we're doing education and outreach, we're able to talk about the importance of your natural resources and to be able to tell people about the tribe's sovereignty, why we have sovereignty, why we're so aggressively working to restore salmon.
You know, and that's really what it's all about, you know, is that providing education for the youth. You know, these people are going to be the people that are going to be able to make the difference, you know, today's youth. And so we do a lot of things. We go around to schools and we educate middle schoolers down to grade school.
Lamprey, sturgeon, and other species face extinction unless changes are made in the management of the Columbia Basin and Pacific Ocean. This is why educating the youngest visitors is essential to Umatilla's educational outreach programs.
Lamprey are an important cultural resource for a lot of the Columbia River Basin tribes. They're a fish that is like salmon in that they go between freshwater and saltwater, so they transfer nutrients. They also are, as juveniles, they live in the sediment, so they filter the water as the water passes over them. And then they also are tasty food for a lot of fish and also for marine mammals. When I go and talk to school groups and to various kids, they love lamprey because lamprey to them are like vampires, you know, they go out into the marine environment and suck the blood of other fish. but they're also fascinating to watch because they look like a snake, they're kind of scary. There are a lot of aspects of their life that are really, I think, interesting to us in general.
They've just been so misrepresented and understudied, and no attention has been given to them for so long that we're trying to increase the awareness. And with awareness will come raise concern that why aren't we seeing this fish here anymore, you know? And so the things that we're doing by educating the youth hopefully will lead to recovery of this species, because that'll be something that they desire to see and want as well.
We're teaching our children today, and in turn they will teach their children, and it'll just keep going down the line, generations ahead.
As everybody knows, we did lose a lot in the past, but we're working today with partners to be able to retain what we have. And we don't only work to restore habitat for ourselves, but it is for everybody. The goal is to bring it back for all of us, not just us, but for all of us.
Held each year the third week of August, the proceeds fund education, outreach events, and supplement K-12 natural resources curriculum throughout the tribe's ceded territories. For Northwest Indian News, I'm Wayne Messer.
I'm Carissa Peapud Ramsey, and I hope you've enjoyed the stories we've brought to you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time on Northwest Indian News.